When did film camera design peak? So I posed this question for the film community and had a little bit of exposition on the question. I also took a swipe on modern digital cameras, which maybe was a little bit ignorant. But my general point was product design is an evolution, but it's not necessarily a linear progression. So when a new generation of a product is released, it isn't always necessarily the best it can be, but it's more actually meeting demands of consumers at the time, or going with design trends, or just trying to improve on what happened in the last generation. So sometimes we can often be mistaken and thinking, say, the new product is the better product, when actually a product from 3 generations before is fundamentally the better product, but it was just answering different questions. So it got me thinking, in over 100 years of film camera design, was there ever actually a point where someone actually made a camera which was actually the pinnacle, which was something that a photographer in 1958 or 2024 could pick up and have all their needs met? And as you can imagine, it got quite a response, and there's a lot of people with very strong opinions. And I think it's an open-ended question, but I think it is worth the discussion, because it does get you thinking what actually is a well-designed camera. Before I move on, I sort of want to define what I mean by design. Some responses I received just assume that design is the look of the product, but by design I'm literally talking everything and anything about the camera, because when you create a new product, you have to design everything about it. You have to design the actual experience, the user experience, how it sounds, how it feels in the hand, how it functions. Obviously, how it looks is designed and is part of design, but it's just one piece of a jigsaw. I don't know if there is a definitive answer to this question, as everyone's experience of film photography is different, and then everyone's coming at it from a different angle. So I'm going to go through some of these responses and respond to responses. The first one I'm going to pick out, I just purely love, because it just took me by surprise. So this guy claims that the Leica M5 is the pinnacle of camera design because it improves upon the design of the Leica M3. And I absolutely love this take. Why? Because the Leica M3 is seen as like this untouchable peak. It's seen as God tier. It's a god in people's eyes. It's a given. It's a given that the Leica M3 is this God tier camera. So to improve on that is at a perfection, right? But everyone hates the Leica M5. It is seen as Leica's ugly duckling. People take the piss out of it non-stop. People say it's ugly, people slate it for all it's worth. But this guy is willing to die on this hill, and I absolutely admire that. I love an underdog, and that's why I'm backing this guy. And to be honest, I don't think the Leica M5 is actually... People say it's ugly. I don't actually think it's that ugly. I don't think it's it's not photogenic, but it's not ugly, if that can make sense. I think it draws upon other aspects of 1970s German design. So like detail rams and stuff is very controlled. You've got those clean lines and stuff. But I don't think it's got the classic look as what it's gone before. And I think that's why it suffered, really, because for its time, it was actually a very advanced camera. But the weight of expectation with it being an M camera made it suffer. And the Leica CL was out at the same time and offered a similar sort of thing at a cheaper price, a more accessible point. And so that's why it didn't get the success, really, but if we boil back to the question that I asked, the pinnacle of camera design, is my take on it. I don't know if a Leica M rangefinder camera could be the pinnacle, absolute pinnacle of camera design. Why? Because it's a specialist. I think in a lot of ways it does define, that high-end tier of camera design. I mean, we're talking about craftsmanship, attention to detail, even user experience in a way, and sort of stripping back what you need to take a photo. There's no excess controls, etc. But it cannot be the ultimate pinnacle, in my opinion, because it's a specialist in the same way that a Ferrari is a specialist. It's a sports car. So the Mini Cooper is much more, say, an iconic design for car design in general, because it offers something to every driver. It can be something to any driver. So whether you're the working man in the street or you're a rich millionaire, you can find something to love about the Mini Cooper, and you can own one and you can drive one and you can experience to its full potential. Where is a classic Ferrari, a 250 GTO, for example, only a handful of people can have access to one, and I know not many people can actually push that car to its limit to get the full experience of a 250 GTO. So in my eyes, to be the ultimate pinnacle of design, camera design, you have to sort of have a utilitarian angle as well. So you have to have that high level of user experience, that high level of design reliability, etc. But you've also got to be able to live in the real world and have that sort of everyman appeal, I feel, and I feel that counts for a lot. If someone wants to send me a Leica M camera to prove me wrong, I will happily oblige to that and to have my opinions changed. It is definitely up there. I think it will be in and around the pinnacle of camera design. I mean, if you think I'm wrong, just get in the comments. Also, side note, the Leica Barnax they're really important in the history of camera design. Essentially, 35mm wouldn't exist without them. And also they have this same level of craftsmanship as well. But again, I don't know if they're still sort of specialists. They can't cover as much, they can't cover all the bases like, say, an SLR camera can, in my opinion. So moving on, it's clear, I think people have their favourites in terms of cameras. And this next take, again, I just loved it as well. I mean, the SX70. And I owned an SX70 for about a year, and I wasn't able to use it because I had a problem with it. So it destroyed every pack of Polaroid that I put into it. I eventually moved it on. And I do still think about that camera. It was a beautiful camera, and you can't deny it changed the game. For instant film, it changed the absolute game. But it's beautifully imperfect. There are flaws to that design, which you see gets improved over the iterations. It's a design icon, but it's not a design pinnacle in my eyes. I think a lot of people, in terms of talking about eras, I feel like the 70s and 80s keep getting mentioned as this sort of golden age, and I sort of agree with that as well, because there's a lot of modern day features sort of spawned at that point. I mean, we're talking autofocus, aperture priority, etc., metering modes. And I think it was a period of true innovation. And in the comments, time and time again, certain names kept cropping up. I mean, you probably can predict this, but the Nikon F line, and more specifically, the F4, the F5, and the F6 kept getting mentioned again and again and again. I feel like potentially the Nikon F as a whole, they could represent the pinnacle. The things that I don't have first-hand experience for these cameras, but you see the way people talk about them, and the more you learn about them, the environments they've been in, the places they've been, they've captured history time and time again, and it's been sort of the go-to. I mean, Leica M's have been used for that as well, but they're not as versatile as a Nikon, any of the Nikon Fs. Also, that utilitarian feel, the Nikon Fs have that. They're still professional grade cameras, but they're within reach of the working man or the hobbyist amateur photographer. It's not quite the Mini Cooper thing, but regular person to own a Nikon F as opposed to a Leica M. But because I haven't got that first-hand experience, I cannot definitively say if it is the pinnacle. I think it is well within the shout of it. Some other honourable mentions are, I mean, the Canon AE1. I'd say the Canon A1 as well, just because I think they were sort of they were one of the first to signal that sea change into sort of modern SLR, really, integrating their electronics and etc. Minolta as well. I mean, there's a reason why Leica come knocking on their door to help them design cameras, because they were doing something in the 80s, in 70s and 80s. In this video, I'm summarising really, but I would love for you guys to get involved in this discussion down below. I mean, I've probably skipped over, I mean, Olympus. I mean, the Trip 35 could be the pinnacle, really, and that sold in the millions, that camera. But I'd love to hear your thoughts and opinions, so get in down below and just say what you think is the pinnacle of the film camera design, and why you think it is. I mean, you might think a camera from the 90s, for example, with the point and shoots, all the point and shoots in the 90s, the early noughties. I mean, talking about a camera for the everyman, you've got it right there. I mean, maybe the Lomo Holga represents the pinnacle of design. Who knows? Get involved down below. Don't forget to like, sub, and subscribe as well. Yeah, I'll see you in the next one.